We now, excuse me, we now turn to the questions which have been submitted on paper, and the first one.
Can I maybe ask one question first? It has nothing to do with those questions. This requisition meeting was requested by somebody. I never was approached by anybody about this requisition meeting, so I just found out by the media. I mean, I find that pretty weird that we are not, as candidates, are not getting even a proper invitation for this. Maybe you can follow that up, I didn't get anything. My assumption is, and I'll have it clarified in a minute, is that the papers for a requisition meeting are submitted to the town hall, and the town clerk's department there then invites each of the candidates in each of the respective areas. Obviously tonight Douglas South, Douglas North was Friday night. Mr. Cannell, would you like to explain? It was on my email, I believe. Yeah, not to me.
I got an email.
I got an email.
I got emails, but not that one. But anyhow, I read the newspaper, so I'm informed, but I found that a bit strange. So, okay, then that's
can I, on behalf of the town hall, then offer our sincere apologies?
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to ask what kind of procedure is that. That's the answer.
Yes,
okay,
I'm sorry about that. It's obviously a slip up, and we'll check afterwards that the town hall hold your correct email address.
Keith told me that on Sunday when we were at the Manx Radio, so I knew from that source, but I thought there should be also some official invitation. Anyhow, it was just a question.
Thank you. Now turn to the written questions, and the first one is for a response to the question: what plans do you have for the future of the Isle of Man steam packet and its user agreements? And we'll take the questions. First one is going to Mr. Malarkey at the end there, but then the second question will go to a different candidate so that they each get a turn at being first off the blocks.
Thank you. I won the raffle again.
You've had the longest rest.
Right. And I can imagine where the question came from. As South Douglas residents who have read my manifesto will know that the steam packet is a major issue in my manifesto. In fact, for me, it's been a major issue for the last 5 years since I sat on 2 select committees looking into the steam packet, looking into our user agreement, and the results were staggering that came out of the select committee. I remember reporting to Tynwald in 2009 a debt of over £220 million that was behind the steam packet. The fact that all the assets had been stripped from the company, and that the Australian bank that had bought the company in 2002 for approximately 200 million had never actually paid for it. They'd just taken out bank loans, and in the end walked away and left the company, or sold the shares and left the company with something like a £200 million debt. Now, I don't want to give you the full history, because believe me, I can, because it's been a pet subject of mine ever since them days of the select committee. But the bottom line is that the user agreement is due to run out in 11 years' time. Now, the value of the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company is 2 vessels and a user agreement. Now, we know the vessels are only worth about £10 million each now. So the company is what the revenue it takes in from using this for the next 10 years. We're told that the Portuguese bank has halved the debt in the steam packet from 200 million to 100 million. They wrote it off. But I have the accounts for the last few years, but only the summary accounts, so I have no idea how much interest they're paying. They might have halved the debt and doubled the interest, for all I know. They're a bank. So I could actually stand and talk on this subject all night, but I want to give you my clear views of what should happen. The Steam Packet Company is a public limited company. The majority shareholding is held by a Portuguese bank. Now, if we do not renew the user agreement, every year the value of that company will go down and down and down, because all they have got after 10 years is basically 2 scrap vessels and no user agreement. So there's no value to the company. Now, I believe it's time to start talking to the bank. I believe it's time for a select committee to look into the options on this, because I believe that We are in a position now, if we do not renew the user agreement, that we could purchase shares in the company. Now, I'm not talking about nationalising the company. I'm not talking about running the company. I'm talking about, we have £1.4 billion in our reserves, and we pay brokers to manage that money for us. And they go out in different pockets and they invest money, our money, for return. And they buy shares in Shell, they buy shares in whatever, they make investments. And they come back with a portfolio at the end of the year where they might make 5%, 6% in that portfolio for the amount of millions of pounds that they've been given. All I'm asking us to do is make the steam packet one of them investments. Only buy enough shares, the controlling shares for the company. I believe, give or take, that the Portuguese bank owns something like 65% of the company. Now, if we own 65% of the shares in the LibVan steam packet company, we still won't be running it. You can't put a politician onto a public limited company board. So it will still be run by the LibVan steam packet company. The difference would be is the bank representative that they have on the board would no longer be on the board, and we would have a treasury representative sitting on the board to make sure our investments were being correct and used. When it came to the first AGM, as the major shareholder, we can set the targets. We can turn around to steam packet directors and say, your profit is capped at 5% for the next coming year. Although the company's making very good money, I'll tell you, in 2009, they made 31% profit on turnover. They're not making quite that now, but between the last figures we had, they made almost £9 million after paying back the money, the interest on the loans. So they still made £8 or £9 million. So as a shareholder, at the shareholders meeting, we can turn around and say to them, right, you're capping your profits at 5%. We want 2% of the profit put back into the steam packet for new vessels for the future. And the other profit goes back into reducing the fares. And over a time period, I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, your fares will now start to come down because we're capping the profit. We're still getting the same return on our investments. We don't own the company, we only own 65% of the shares. But we will reduce the price of the fares because we will not be taking the profit out that the Portuguese bank is, who's taken it off the Isle of Man, who's not going into the Isle of Man economy, and we will have control of our own future. So it's vital that we do not renew the user agreement at this time. It's vital that we have a select committee looking into the options going forward with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company. We know two companies working side by side does not pay. It's been proved in the 80s when we had Manx Line, which almost bankrupt two companies. 4 years ago, we know, and Kurt will verify, that Dublin Shipping brought in cargo and tried to take cargo away from the steam packet. Do you know who the only winners were? Were the freight carriers, people like Greylaw, because they managed to renegotiate a better price with the steam packet company. And when they did that better price, did anybody see the prices on the shelves in the shop going down? I certainly didn't. People like Tesco's reduced the price with the steam packet, and steam packet did this to get that cargo back from a second company. Now, I will tell you again, on the select committee I stood on, that fares, our passenger fares, were actually subsidised by freight. The select committee came up with that conclusion, that the fare prices to the Isle of Man for passengers were subsidised. That's not happening anymore because of the last attempt to bring another vessel into the bay. Right? Freight is now at rock bottom. It's no longer subsidising, so no wonder our fares are going up all the time. So I strongly believe that in the future of the Isle of Man, we need to take control of the steam packet company. Not nationalise it, not own it, not run it, but get our investment back for us and get the fares back down, and let's have a decent service running forward.
Thank you. Would you like to?
Am I the next one? Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to say something from a complete different angle. What we saw here now, the statement, is something that you make a statement about a company. I think when you're a politician, you have to try to be neutral. And that means we have to look at different facts. Otherwise, you do exactly the same what our politicians do, favouring a hotel and giving them a loan, and not another hotel giving the same loan. So I think as politicians, you have to look to the facts. And I do not want to like to talk about the steam packet, but one thing I would like to say is, I heard once that somebody said, always know what you say, but do not always say what you know. So I could talk as well about a lot of things about what Bill just said, and I have a lot of details as well, but I think it will be the wrong way. We have a contract, and that is what we have to look at. We have a contract for a ferry service to the Isle of Man. The contract was issued by the Isle of Man government, and I'm coming back to what I said in my introduction. If you cannot read a contract properly, you will miss out on the end. And that's what we see here. The company on the side that has to fulfill obligations from their contract is doing exactly what it has to do as per the contract. The government gave the contract and gave them the chance to do what they are doing at the moment. So they do not do anything wrong. An investment company is always doing what investment companies do. They look after their profit. And the investment company is not interested in the Isle of Man. They're interested in the profit. So what we have to look at, when this contract has to be renewed, that we do it properly. That means to an advantage to the Isle of Man. We are paying 4 times more for a freight service here than what people are paying from the UK going to Ireland. I hope I get the directions right, you know. So, and that is quite a significant difference. I think also we could possibly look at the whole connections that we have here, sea service and air service from a complete different angle. We could say there is a network of connections with a lot of ferries going across, and we are bang in the middle of the Irish Sea, 32 miles to one side, 32 miles to the other side. Why can we not get into this network? Or a company that serves the Isle of Man, why do they not extend their service and say the Isle of Man is not the end point, it's a middle point? We get a contract, we come from the UK, we come here, we go to Ireland and back. So that would solve a lot of problems. But this business expansion, the company that has a contract now doesn't have to look at, because they have a monopoly and they have the right to make the profit that they make at the moment. But it's not the fault of the company. That's my answer to that question.
Thank you.
I think I broadly agree with Bill. In general terms, I think that the steam packet company should be a goal that we at least have a golden share, so that the island can actually say what happens to the network that serves our future. I would go say, I looked at the accounts that were available as well. So it's 9 million, 5 million the year before. So they're making about £7 million a year profit. This is a very profitable piece of water. One of the things which we discussed on Sunday that I think is really important, and a lot of people don't realise though, is that the rates that the crews are paid are negotiated with the government as well. And I think we should be maintaining that. We shouldn't be trying to make profit out of, such as Stena do, by on their Irish routes, they pay a rate that is actually below the national minimum wage. And they can get away with that because the crew live on board and they never get off, and they don't pay tax and NI in either England or Ireland. So for those reasons, I think morally we should be actually trying to maintain a better standard than that. And I think we also need to be very careful about what we wish for. Yes, I mean, I use that ferry 7 or 8 times a year. I would very much like cheaper fares. But what we have got is a service level agreement that keeps the steam packet supplying us all the way through the year. If we have too much of an open seas policy, we could end up with a company coming in that thinks, well, it's not profitable to take passengers in February, we'll just put a cargo boat on and get the cargo here. So we've got to be quite careful what we wish for as well. So I think a controlling interest, get that profit back onto the island, but allow the board to continue to run it in a decent manner, continue to pay its crew properly, keep it Manx, make it stay as a Manx company. That's the way forward for me, I think, and it makes sure that we keep that lifeline going all through the year. But I think the other thing is I would be now saying, in similar to what Bill was saying, but I'd go a little bit further, I would be quite happy for the government to now be saying that the contract will not be renewed in the same terms and conditions, because that actually devalues their only asset even further. So, thank you.
Keith, can I make a comment on what
Yes?
Keith just said?
Yeah, after you could.
We had this discussion on Sunday when we were in the Manx Radio. Keith started this discussion about the ITF rates, and I said to him, you are going on a very dangerous path. The way how this works with the ITF has a headquarter in London. In all countries, the ITF has so-called affiliated unions. We have also such an affiliated union here on the Isle of Man. The affiliated unions make a local agreement with a shipping company. So if the local union says we have to pay at least Manx minimum wages, that's what's happening. The ITF wages Keith is talking about are ITF wages which globally apply as a minimum wage to people from all countries. You cannot pay below that one. That is regulated in the ILO, which is the International Labour Organization. So de facto, when whoever does this service and the ITF affiliated office here, the branch office, I don't know what the union is called here at the moment, they can sign a contract which guarantees the right amount of pay. So there's no risk. And the LibVan, actually, you have in your manifesto, you are proposing a deep water berth for competition. So the competition would come in anyhow. If it's not an Isle of Man flag, if it's a flag from Bermudas or Panama, and this could be the ships berthing on that dock, then they can pay whatever they like, and you have no option to change it. So a ship with Isle of Man flag, Isle of Man union, you sign a contract for the crew, and you pay them the right wages. So there's no risk for the crew.
But you do agree that Stena pay their crew below the national minimum wage?
I don't know what Stena's paying, but the steam package is paying two different wages as well, one for the Bentley Creek,
but
one for
they're
the
still
Manila.
paying above the national minimum wage. And
Possible, I don't know.
When you're making, if you're looking at a company that's going to make about £7 million a year profit anyway, then I think they can pay their crew a proper wage.
I don't run the strategy of that company, so it's up to them.
I think the captain has said he doesn't know the answer to Stena, and Stena was not part of the question indeed either.
Can I just clarify,
Bill,
finishing off, I don't want to talk anything about the cruise pay. The reason I'm asking for a select committee is quite important. At the moment, the user agreement is in the hands of the DOI, Department of Infrastructure. Now, they've also had expressions of interest, and that's in the hands of the Department of Infrastructure. The Department of Infrastructure has had 3 ministers in the past 3 years. They've had 3 schemes for the promenade in the last 5 years. Do you want them to really have the choice of who serves our port and who serves our island? No, we need a select committee. A select committee has the power of the highest court in the land, Tynwald. When I was on the select committee last time, Steam Packet refused to hand over their accounts to us. We took a motion for Tynwald. Tynwald voted that they must. And Mr Woodward came out of the upstairs and walked downstairs after the vote and handed the accounts over. Because that's the power of a select committee. And I think that this is so important to the future of this island. We must have this checked. And I have said on the doorstep, I've said on the radio, if I'm elected on Thursday, I promise by July I will be going to Tynwald for a select committee to do just that, because I feel so passionate about it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does the questioner who proposed that question, which was what plans do you have for the future of the Isle of Man steam packet and user agreements, do they want to add anything to that or not, or are you satisfied?
I think more of the things being covered. The only thing I was wondering about is it possible to have a public-private company where the public have you mentioned about 65% on the shares. The government owns that. What about the other 35%? Can you have it so that it's only owned by people who are resident in the Isle of Man?
It's a public limited company, and if I would imagine if we start capping the profits, I think whoever owns the other 35% of the shares might start dumping them quite quickly.
Once you own 65%, you can handle it. So,
under stock exchange rules, if you own more than 30% of the company, you're obliged to make a bid for the entire company.
Can I just say that this is perhaps opening the question up a bit too wide now, and we're going to be in fear of talking steam packet all night. Thank you very much. Okay, shall we move on? Yes, Is it a question for the top table?
Yes, please.
Would you like to submit that?
Well, it's kind of part of this, so I don't want to kind of move on to something else and have to come back again.
Well, there are other people, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there are other people who have submitted written questions which were in before you. If you would like to, I can appreciate what you're saying, but we have to stick to some sort of order, otherwise we'll be here all night. Sorry.
I have time.
The second question is, what do the candidates think about the horse trams losing about £3,000 per year and costing about £1 million to refurbish the stables? Could they be moved? I don't know whether it's the horse trams, the stables or the candidates. So it's, what do you think about the horse trams losing about £3,000 per annum, the cost of £1 million to refurbish the stables, and could they be moved?
Excuse me, it's 300,000, isn't it? It's 300,000.
300,000. Right.
It's certainly not 3,000.
You're right. The question was as I read it, but in fact, as has been pointed out, it is £300,000 is the loss per annum on the horse trams. Whether you consider it a loss or an asset, that's up to the individual. But the first one is for yourself, Captain.
Yeah, all right, okay.
Thank you.
I'm a very conservative person, and I'm always very behind about looking at the heritage of a nation. And we have only very few things which are very important to people. One is the horse tram, Laxey Wheel, castles, Castletown, Peel Castle. So there, and a few others most probably which I forget. So the local people might forgive me that I cannot remember all the important things from the past that we try to hold dear here. On the other hand, we have to look at the costs that we have involved in keeping the horse tram. I think the horse tram looks very nice. I like to use it. I have used it once so far, and I'm 15 years on the island here now, so not more often. But the horse tram is not a means of transport. It is more for tourists. Now, if we would have a lot of tourists here, we could say it would make sense to keep that. On the other hand, if you look at postcards, if you look at pictures from the Isle of Man, you always see either the horse tram or the Laxey Wheel. For me, it would be a shame to lose that, but I think also that the horse tram most probably could be run more efficient, and this is not something that a politician should decide, or Tynwald. I think for certain issues like this one, what is important for the whole of the Isle of Man, how do we want to place ourselves, we have to look at Switzerland. For very important questions, they ask the population, and you can vote. It's not only a vote for one question, they put 5 or 6 votes together, and then you can vote, and then when the majority says we keep it, then we have to pay for it. If the majority says no, we don't want to keep it, then it would go. But it is not up to a few people to decide this. That's my point to the horse tram. I like it, but it's also very expensive.
I like the horse trams. I think they're part of our heritage. One of the things I've never understood, though, is how the House of Manannan doesn't come out of Peel ratepayers' rates, and Castle Rushen doesn't come out of Castletown ratepayer rates. So why is a heritage site such as the trams coming out of Douglas rates? So it's not so much whether they offer value for money. They're always going to be a loss. They're never going to break even. It's whether or not they're attracting people to the island, and are they part of the island's culture and fabric. The real question I feel is, should they be getting paid out of Douglas ratepayers? And that would be where I would want to address my concerns. Thank you.
It's a bit more because I think the question was a bit more expandable than that, wasn't it?
The question also related to the cost of the stable.
Exactly, yes. Well, I'm happy to agree with both of my opponents here tonight. I'm delighted that Kurt finds the heritage that we have in the horse trams, because I'm certainly a strong believer in the horse trams. My manifesto again is tourism has got to be something we're really going to have to seriously look at for the future, because we're losing so many other things. the latest figures I have on tourism is it's 1% of our income. Remember, I said in my manifesto as a kid, I can remember there was hundreds of thousands of people. I'm not saying we're ever going to go back to them days, but I think we're going around in a circle. If we start losing finance, we've got to look for other things coming in, and tourism has definitely got to be one of them. And it links in with what I'm saying with the steam packet, we've got to get fares down. But if we're going to get tourists here, we've got to have something for the tourists to do when they get here. And this island has spent millions and millions of pounds on refurbishing our steam railways, our electric railways, House of Manannan, Castle Rushen. We have so many heritage centres around the Isle of Man that we as ratepayers, as taxpayers have paid for over the years. And the horse tram is just another one. Now, I totally agree with Keith. This is something that Douglas ratepayers has paid for all its life. But it's a national treasure. And I do believe that we should all be paying for it. But it is what it is at the moment. Douglas pays for it. Council's very passionate about it. It's not 300,000. It's only 250,000 we lose on it, by the way. You know, it makes the odd £50,000 a difference. I got the nod from the ex-chairman of the committee from the back of the room. Don't look behind now, Mr. Pitts. So I strongly believe that we do need to keep the horse trams. I'm against them going on the walkway, but that's another debate we could sit here for hours on.
One of the questions.
Councillor Ashford and myself sat in a special council meeting 2 weeks ago, and between us we kept the debate going for 4 hours over the latest promenade conversions. And I will tell you, in the end, I ended up voting for them after 4 hours debate about the conversion and moving the horse trams. And why? Because the message came through to us from, again, the DOI: take it or leave it. If you don't accept this one, there's nothing else on the table. Now, I agreed to 2 years ago, when we were going on about the horse trams, of having them on the walkway, on the pavement, on the away from the seaward side of the gardens. And I thought that's what we were doing.
But we're straying a little bit off the topic of the cost of the horse trams.
I'm trying to relate it all together, because council is looking at, if this goes ahead and we keep the horse trams and they go where council wants them, we're going to sell off some of the buildings, and we are going to looking at refurbishing the Strathallan Centre and turning it into the stables, and then regenerating our money from the old places. But this is all linked in to what financially we can do if the horse trams are running and where they're running. So yes, I want to keep the horse trams. No, I don't want them on the walkway. And if we are going to go ahead for the next how many years, yes, we do need new stables and new everything else that goes with them. So I do support, because it's our heritage.
Thank you. Does the questioner feel that it's been addressed by the candidates? Yeah, thank you.